into some cloud structures and cloud identification for you. And we'll round it out with the Monsoon 2019 outlook, which if I need to for time, I can kind of go through that. We have a YouTube video on our website that is the Monsoon 2019 outlook, and you can access that from anywhere and look at that. So if we need to cut that out for time, we can. But, all right. So as I mentioned briefly in the beginning, our mission statement, at the end of the day, we're here for the protection of life and property. That's what we do. We have 122 Weather Service offices across the country. That also includes Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, Puerto Rico. And so we're going to be down here in Southeast Arizona. Our neighbors, we call them our neighbors to the north, Phoenix. There's an office up in Phoenix. Our neighbors to the far north, there's an office in Flagstaff. We also coordinate with El Paso and Albuquerque as well. We border them just a little bit up in Greenlee County. So wherever you are across the US, there's going to be a Weather Service office that is responsible for issuing the forecasts and warnings for your area. And again, as I mentioned, we are responsible for Southeast Arizona. We cover Cochise, Greenlee, Graham, Santa Cruz, Pima, and Southeast Pinal County. Pinal County can get tricky at times because we only cover half the county. We really have to be in close coordination with the Phoenix office, especially when it comes to dust storms, dust storm warnings, and advisories, things of that nature. We do a lot in terms of forecasting. We have a lot of responsibility. Hazards being first and foremost. Winter storm, I know it's not terribly common around here. We did have an inch in Tucson in February. I saw all your photos, they were amazing. I was in the office going, it's 7:30, it's snowing, okay, it's gonna stop at 9:30.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna stop at 11. Okay, it's gonna stop at, when is it gonna stop? I don't think it stopped until 2:30 in the afternoon. And I've been here for 6 years, and I had never seen it snow in Tucson that long, but yet it was, at least where we were downtown, because we're on the U of A campus, such little accumulation on the ground. But the photos, the snow on the cactus is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I'm from Connecticut originally, so I grew up with blizzards, but snow on cactus is pretty amazing. All right, so we issue severe thunderstorm warnings, the occasional tornado warning. I believe my former coworker, Greg Moller, who retired a couple of years ago, I think he was the last one to issue a tornado warning in 2016. Dust storm warning, high wind, generally this spring. I may have had one high wind warning this spring. Generally that's going to be in the mountains, up in the terrain. Our public forecast, your general high and low temperature, precip, cloud cover, what you guys are kind of concerned with on a daily basis. We do produce that forecast. We do a lot with the fire weather community and fire weather forecasting. So we're forecasting red flag. We're looking at humidity. We're working with the Forest Service and seeing what the fire danger is. See if that humidity and those wind speeds are going to be there that are going to create critical conditions where, if there's a spark from your lawnmower, you could set off a wildfire that goes for days. Aviation, we issue forecasts for the airport to help them land planes and help planes take off. Our terminal air drone forecast as well. We provide decision support services. We go out on site. We provide information, things like LTOR. I believe we sent somebody over to the EOC this last year to help with weather information there. We work with ADOT, Border Patrol. My coworker Glenn is very involved with ADOT, working on the dust detection network that's going up near Picacho Peak. That's going to save a lot of lives. My other coworker Jeremy, I believe he's coming back, if not today. He may already be back, but he's been up on the Woodbury fire, helping to provide on-site support as a secondary. He was helping with the air resource up there, so when they have to fly planes, to help drop retardant or drop water on the fire, that fire's kind of gotten really out of control. I think, is it quieted down now, Ken? Correct me, I haven't been in the office.
No.
It's still raging. So that's a real threat, but we do all of this in the name of protection of life and property. All right, I know this seems kind of trivial for this group. I know we're really educated here, but I always want to make sure that we're, passing along the information and that you can pass it along to your friends and family. The difference between a watch and a warning. So severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch would be issued when conditions are favorable for development of severe weather. That usually comes from the Storm Prediction Center, which is in Norman, Oklahoma. They may coordinate with us here at the local office to determine what counties will be included in that watch or whether it's needed at all. And then if the watch comes out or if it doesn't mean that you can't have a severe thunderstorm warning. You don't have to have a watch in order to have a warning. We issue warnings on many days without a watch. The biggest difference here is when there's a watch, you want to be prepared. You want to know that the potential is there for severe weather. When there's a warning issued, you need to take action to protect yourself, your family, your property, whether that's, you have enough heads up to get inside, get your family inside. And I like this next graphic. I always gets a little bit of a chuckle, but cupcake watch is when all of the ingredients for the cupcake are available. The cupcake warning is when all of those ingredients have come together and baked, and we actually have a cupcake. So think about that when you're, making the distinction between a watch and a warning. All right. You can get our warnings a variety of different ways. Most of us now, you can get them on your cell phone. If you're hooked up with the media, sometimes you can get alerts on your phone from the local media when the warnings go out. They're also going to be on the radio. I can't tell you how many times I've been driving home from work and there's storms, developing, and I'm listening to the radio and then you hear the emergency alert system and I'm thinking, yeah, I know. And then I'm, silently in my car cussing out my coworkers. Thanks, guys. You couldn't keep it under control for 2 hours after I left. You can get our warnings on the internet, public signage. That's going up more. I think they put up at least 2 more signs in the new stretch of I-10 at Ina and Orange Grove, so we've got that going for us. Of course, no weather radio is your best bet. Something good to have on hand. This isn't a Skywarn training course, although I know many of you are Skywarn spotters for us. The biggest difference here, we're not training chasers. Chasing is something that you do on your own when you go out and you seek out the severe weather. We're teaching you to be a storm spotter. That's basically observing the weather from where you are and then making a report to us, letting us know what's going on. We are done with training this year. It occurs usually in the early spring. We're going to hopefully start early March in 2020, go through the middle of May next year. But if you're so inclined, you can still go on this website, MetEd, which is a great weather resource if you're a super weather weenie like me. They have a ton of training there and it's free. And you can go on, they have a Skywarn spotter training course. It's about 2 hours long. If you want to take that course, we do get notification in our office if somebody in our area has taken the training. But if you want a spotter number from us, you still need to come to our training next spring so that we can give you our local procedures. So, but check this website out. The Weather Service uses this to train us. So it's really, really good information. All of our information, pick your social media poison. We have our website, weather.gov/Tucson, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, NOAA Weather Radio. We have a recorded weather information phone line where you can just call in and get the hourly observations. And we have our Skywarn reporting line. If you don't have social media but you still want to see what we have going on, we have a social media webpage. So if you go to our website, weather.gov/Tucson, scroll down below the map, there's a link there. It says social media, and you can view all of what we have going on. So you can see if you go to that website, you can look and play the Monsoon 29 Outlook if you'd like from YouTube, but you can also see what we're posting on Twitter and Facebook. So you don't have to have those platforms to see our information.
Can you still tweet your observations to you guys, or is that going the way of the wind?
Yes, please tweet. We have TweetDeck up, all of us, so if you have a Twitter account, we're at NWS Tucson, and if you want to make a report or send us a photo or something, that way please do so, because we're watching several things. We're watching, obviously our mentions are at NWS Tucson, we're watching hashtag AZWX, we're watching hashtag Monsoon 2019, and we follow a lot of the local media as well, so anything that comes across in that way is a good way to get us information.
Henry hasn't been on the air much, so I'll probably just tweet when I go out.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Henry? I saw him last night.
Case that maybe all I haven't heard of on the air much.
There was a big OVARC meeting last night. I presented at briefly, and
I probably should have gone to that one.
that's okay. But no, he is, for the hands in the room, Henry is set up with a net. He has set up several other net control operators for this year. And so if you can find out who the operator is for the day, then they'll be able to contact us through NWS chat and get us storm reports that way.
Is it still on OVARC's network?
Yes, for local, yes. Yes, you can see. All right, meteorology of the monsoon. I apologize for the repeat of last night All right, North American monsoon. It's our season we're in right now, lasting from June 15th until September 30th. Using conversation the same way any other season would be. It does not refer to an individual storm or a group of storms. So what is a monsoon? All it is a wind shift on a regional scale. That's all it is. We have our winds that normally come out of the southwest. They switch, high pressure moves up over the Four Corners region, and we get winds out of the east or the southeast. Compare that to the more famous Asian monsoon, where they have, again in the winter, offshore winds, high pressure over the plateau, and then in the summer they have their low pressure setting up and onshore winds creating their flooding. So if you're ever following hashtag AZ or hashtag Monsoon 2019 during the night, you will see a lot of photos coming over from that region of the world. I know, because I'm up at those hours. All right, so there are 4 basic monsoon patterns. The most common is going to be your Four Corners high pressure. The one we all know and love. You have high pressure setting up, we have easterly flow, southeasterly flow, feeding in moisture to our region from the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of California. Our daytime heating, is very strong, is enough to force those thunderstorms to develop, and that's when we can have our severe weather. Storms generally move east to west in this pattern. All right, type 2, high pressure moves a little bit further to the north and west, and we can kind of get this, what we call a backdoor cold front. So I say cold front, it's just a frontal boundary. The only thing a frontal boundary is a difference between air masses. So temperature difference, a change in the wind direction. That's all you need to have a frontal boundary. Generally, it's a little bit cooler behind this front. But what happens is you have storms that set up along the Mogollon Rim, and then they move southwestward into our area. They move into Phoenix, they move into Tucson. And these storms tend to develop in the afternoon, but once they get here to the Tucson area, it's usually later in the evening into the overnight hours. And so we will have that overnight convection. All right, type 3, a little bit trickier here. We got 2 high pressures, one kind of off to the south and east, one over to the west, and we kind of get this little trapped meso-low. This clicker is, okay, a little different for me. Looking for that. We have a little meso-low that sets up, And what happens here is we have really poorly organized thunderstorms, so we may not have as much in terms of severe wind or hail, but our flash flood threat starts to go through the roof. And that's because of the light winds aloft. So we're really looking at flash flooding and overnight storms with this setup. The fourth one is our transition pattern, and this will happen as we're exiting monsoon season. So high pressure is kind of sliding off to the east, and then we have a big trough that's going to move in off the Pacific Northwest. And a lot of times this is when we get our best wind shear. So we have a lot of change in the wind speed as you move up through the atmosphere. So this is why, or this is when we can get our supercells and the occasional tornado, and that's going to be kind of in that transition season, late August into September. If the trough is strong enough, sometimes it will kind of signal the end to the monsoon. Sometimes when that trough comes through, that easterly flow never returns. So that's something to look out for as we're going through the season this year. All right, so our monthly average precipitation. These are new maps that are generated from CLEMAS. We work really closely with them, the climate assessment for the Southwest. You can see that this one is June, so June our rainfall hasn't really kicked up at all, but then as we start getting into July and August and September, so you can see that the majority of our rainfall comes between July and August, and then starts to kind of diminish into September. But overall for the monsoon, obviously our higher peaks, our terrain are going to be the biggest winners, but Tucson still is going to average anywhere between 6 and 8 inches of rain just during the monsoon. Compare that to our annual average rainfall, which is somewhere around 11 to 12 inches for the entire year. So we get at least 50 to 60% of our rainfall between June and September, which is pretty significant. So a couple things you need for cloud development. The first one is going to be atmospheric moisture. If you don't have moisture, you can't have clouds, which is one of the reasons why people say nothing happens in Tucson, right? You look out the window, what's it going to be for the next 7 days? Well, 100 and clear, no clouds, and that's because we don't have a lot of moisture here. In monsoon, that changes. So the relative humidity increases. That's going to be a ratio of how much moisture there is in the air to how much moisture is required for condensation to occur at the same temperature. And that's determined by the dew point, which is just the temperature that that parcel of air must cool down to in order to condense. And so, as I said, moisture is essential for cloud development and rainfall. So how do clouds develop? Well, they take a hypothetical parcel of air, the surface. That's what this box is. And you can see, I like this graphic a lot. So the temperature is 92, the dew point is 60. So what you want to do is you want to take this parcel and you want it to rise. You want to raise it up. So 3,000 feet, okay, that temperature's starting to come down. The dew points remain the same, but nothing's happened yet. Well, once you get up to 6,000 feet, now your temperature and your dew point are the same. And so you have condensation and you have cloud development, because at this point your relative humidity is 100%. So anytime you try to go over 100% relative humidity, you're going to have condensation. And eventually, a large enough mass of water vapor droplets will form a cloud. We look at stability and instability when we're looking at cloud development as well. So we want an unstable environment for cloud development. If it's stable, a rising air parcel that's colder will sink back down. But if we have an unstable environment where we have a very steep lapse rate, then that rising parcel that's warmer will continue to rise on its own. So instability is just a measure of the ability for that air parcel to continue rising on its own when given a push. So if you have a balloon and you push it from underneath, it's going to go up. And the only thing that will stop it from going, well, to keep going up, will gravity. But if you've got a strong enough push, that balloon will keep going. Hypothetically, I know it's not a perfect science, but that's what we're looking at. All right. So upward vertical motion, you need a mechanism, that push, to get that air parcel to continue its journey upward. So a couple of things you need. You can have an upper level trough or upper level divergence, which would mean the splitting of the air in the upper levels, which allows mass to come up from underneath. You have a frontal passage, as in this example here of a cold front, where you have this cooler air moving into a warmer area, and you have lifting along this boundary, which causes rain cloud development. You can have a dry line, which is common in the plains region. You can have a wildfire, pyrocumulus. I'll have a couple nice photos of that. That's kind of what's been happening up on the Woodbury fire. They've been having pyrocumulus each afternoon with the fire activity. Our sky islands, perfect source of lift. Surface winds hitting those sky islands in the terrain are enough to get that warm, moist air to move upward. And you can have surface convergence. So ever notice when you've got 3 different storms close together and they all push out a little outflow boundary, and all of a sudden you just have this storm that goes up in the middle of them? It's because all of those outflow boundaries have converged and have allowed air to rise and form another storm. So kind of a neat thing that happens. All right. Cloud Entomology 101. Who took Latin? Anybody? You know, it's kind of a couple. Yeah, there's only like 3 of you. I did not take Latin either in high school, but it was not offered to me, and I was very disappointed because our language comes from Latin, and I've always felt like I wanted to learn Latin, even though it's kind of a dead language at this point, but that's neither here nor there. We have 10 basic clouds that we kind of build off of, and they all come from Latin roots. And so these, you'll notice when you put these 5 roots together, you're going to kind of get those 10 basic clouds. And the troposphere is divided into 3 levels. So when we talk about cloud heights, we're talking about low clouds, middle clouds, and high clouds. And each level is defined by a range of heights that can vary with latitude, as I'll show you on the next slide. So our high clouds are going to have bases in excess of 5,000 meters. That's going to be your cirrus group. So your cirrus, cirrostratus, cirrocumulus. Your middle clouds are from 2,000 to 7,000 meters. So you can see that there is a little bit of overlap there between the middle and high cloud, but that's going to be your altostratus, your altocumulus, and your nimbostratus clouds. And then your low clouds are anywhere from the surface to 2,000 meters. Your stratus, stratocumulus, cumulus, and cumulonimbus. And I probably should have put a little asterisk here because many times our cloud bases here in the Southwest are above that 6,500 foot level. And so there should be a little bit of a, Tucson has an exception to this because I've seen cumulus clouds, the structure of cumulus and cumulonimbus are thunderheads with bases higher than 6,500 feet, but this is just general. This is from the WMO, by the way. So they have all this information. You can go check it out. And this is kind of what it looks like. So you have your stratus here, your stratocu, your stratus, here's your cumulus cloud, your nimbostratus, cumulonimbus, which the cloud base, again, is in the lower level, but it extends into the upper level. Your altocumulus, altostratus, cirrocumulus, cirrus, and cirrostratus. And this is what they look like. So cirrostratus, cirrus, cirrocumulus, your middle clouds, your altocu, altostratus, nimbostratus, and then your lower level clouds, your cumulonimbus, cumulus, stratocumulus, and stratus. We don't get a ton of stratus around here. Generally in the wintertime is the best opportunity for us to have the stratus and some low fog. All right, clouds 102. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I just want you to know that there are over 100 combinations of these Latin roots that will give any cloud that you see a name. And some of the more familiar ones might be like, we call it Acus or Altocumulus castellanus, you see in the morning after you've had an active monsoon day, and then kind of in the morning you have these, this altocumulus cloud and the sky looks kind of funny and you're like, well, could be a big day today. We kind of see the altocumulus castellanus, the ACUS, in the morning before another big monsoon day. This one also, Lenticularis, or lenticular clouds that form over the mountains. Those have to be my favorite clouds. I mean, everybody has a favorite. The lenticular clouds are definitely my favorite. They look like UFOs, flying saucers. Volutus, this is a new one. Does anybody know what a volutus is? No. This recently came out. This is the Latin name for a roll cloud. All right. What else? Other familiar clouds. Here you go. Here's your mammatus, that forming your cumulonimbus. So all it is in the parentheses are the cloud that they're generally associated with. So the lenticular clouds are with your altocumulus, the mammatus clouds with your cumulonimbus. Virga muris is the Latin word for a wall cloud. And this one I just learned, I had no idea. Flammagenitus is actually your pyrocumulus cloud. So they say the pyrocumulus is actually the generic, or the common name for it, but it's not the actual Latin name. Yes?
I saw a picture, Dallas had a rain bomb. Is a rain bomb a new development? Because I've not.
I think that might be...
Microburst?
Yeah, it sounds like a media, like a polar vortex. That's what it sounds like to me.
I think it's
Yeah.
a burst is what they're saying, but it's covering the whole mass of Dallas or something.
Yeah, it's probably a downburst, or it just was really heavy rain or something like that. It's not a technical term that I've ever heard. I saw a hand go up.
That's okay. You hit it right on the nail on the head. It's a wet microburst.
Yeah, it's just, that it sounds like a hook, a media hook to me.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so next couple slides, I'm just going to go into some clouds that may look the same and some things that you might want to take into consideration when trying to identify what you're looking at. So in this slide, we're looking at a wall cloud versus a shelf cloud. And so they have kind of similar features. You have this kind of sloping here, and this kind of sloping here. They're both with your cumulonimbus cloud, but there's pretty big difference. So with your wall cloud, you have updraft and inflow. And so this is going to be sloping up and away from your precipitation area. Your shelf cloud is actually suggesting that there's downdraft and outflow, and so this is going to be moving away from your area of precipitation. So that's something to look for. So your wall cloud is your updraft, rain-free base. It's not anywhere near, usually in a supercell where you have separation of the rain from the updraft, not going to be anywhere near you can kind of see the rain off in this photo here to the right, but the shelf cloud is going to slope down and away from that rain. Funnel cloud versus a tornado. This may seem, again, kind of trivial for this group, but I do like to touch on it anyway. This is the same storm. A funnel cloud is when you don't have any connection to the ground, and it often originates from a wall cloud in a supercell. So that rotating thunderstorm, that mesocyclone, rotating updraft. You have a lowering, which is the wall cloud we saw in the last slide, and sometimes you can get a funnel descending from that. Now, a tornado is going to be when that violently rotating column of air actually extends all the way to the ground, and you can make a connection with the ground. That's when you have a tornado. Tornadoes can come from these supercellular funnels, or they can develop when a surface-based shear tube, like a dust devil, stretches up into a cloud base as well. So a couple different mechanisms there. Cumulus versus cumulonimbus. Cumulus, or even towering cumulus, which are going to be when your cumulus start to grow. You have, again with the clicker, looking for that. You have these flat bases. They can be kind of dark. As your cumulus grow, those bases get darker, and you might start to thinking it's looking a little ominous. But the sunlit parts of these clouds are really, really bright white, but over time, these cumulus actually can grow into cumulonimbus. So you have a heavy, dense cloud with very, very deep vertical extent, sometimes protruding through the top of the tropopause and into the stratosphere. And you have this anvil that develops on top as well. And so this is going to be your source for lightning, thunder, rain, hail, and sometimes tornadoes. Cumulus are not going to produce those features. Stratus versus Nimbostratus. Ken and I had this conversation the other day because Nimbostratus can be thought of as a low cloud. The WMO is classifying it as a middle cloud, but it does reach down into the low levels and also can extend up into the higher levels as well. But they can look kind of similar. Your stratus are generally going to be not producing a ton of rainfall, kind of this misty, foggy, eerie looking environment. Sometimes you have ragged appearance, not quite sure, can't really make out a cloud. Whereas the Nimbostratus is going to be a little bit clearer below the base of the cloud, and it's thick enough that you can't see the sun through it. So the other thing with the Nimbostratus is if you're going to have snowfall or rainfall, it's generally going to be a little bit stronger with the Nimbostratus versus the stratus. My favorite, lenticular clouds. These are amazing. They kind of look like lenses, which is why they call them lenticular, or they're almond shaped, and they often form over the mountains, topography. Found this photo. Mark Madigan took this photo in Colorado in 2003. That's amazing. It just looks like a little cap on top of the mountain there. But these lenticular clouds can actually stack on top of each other. They look like pancakes. This is also known as duplicatus if you want to get really technical, but sometimes they can be confused for UFOs, especially depending on the time of day. If it's at dusk or something like that, you can't really make out what's going on. But these are fun when you've got a lot of strong winds and kind of at the mountaintop, you can get these these clouds to develop. Mammatus, we do get this around here. It looks more like the picture on the right than it does on the left at times. But mammatus is just indicating to you that there's turbulence in the atmosphere. There's a strong updraft present somewhere. It's not going to be directly producing severe weather, but they're kind of neat a neat feature to look for when you're getting your 4 cameras out and go use that lightning trigger. And I learned so much this morning. I don't know about you. But you can often get these mammatus clouds to form under the anvil part of your cumulonimbus. That's where you can look. Here's your roll cloud, your volutus. A long, low, horizontal, detached, cube-shaped cloud mass, often appearing to roll slowly about a horizontal axis. That's the official definition. We don't really see them around here too often. They can occur when a shelf cloud off the front edge of a cumulonimbus detaches, but they're not that common. They're usually really, really long. I think they're more out in the plains area, but just something to be aware of. Here's the pyro-Q. These are pretty amazing. Wow. These clouds develop, and actually the wildfires themselves, if they get big enough, actually, kind of create their own environment, their own weather. And so there's at least some water vapor element in these clouds. It's not just dust and ash, but if you have strong enough upward momentum, lift, upward vertical motion, you can get actually thunderstorms to develop from these wildfires. And then they call them pyrocumulonimbus clouds, and you can get lightning and hail and all of the other severe weather characteristics of a normal thunderstorm coming out of these pyrocumulus. And it's not just from wildfires, it can happen with volcanic eruption as well. All right. How am I doing on time?
5 minutes?
Right there. Oh, I got lots of time. Oh man, I was going through that because I was thinking I was going to be short. All right, cool. Okay, there we go. All right, so we are in a weak El Nino pattern right now. Basically, the equatorial Pacific waters are slightly warmer than they would be typically during this time of year. And a lot of people say, oh, well, what does El Nino mean for the monsoon? Well, our correlation with El Nino is much more obvious in the wintertime, not so much in the summertime. But we do have a good outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. Here's kind of a plume diagram of sorts, right? Showing this kind of weak El Nino. I believe that their definition of weak is below 1 degree Celsius sea surface temperature. What am I trying to say? Sea surface temperature warmer than normal, 1 degree Celsius. And so a lot of the models that they've run out, and here's a 1 degree right here. So generally below that. And the one thing that we do look for with those warmer temperatures are going to be increased tropical cyclone development. So even though, what did I do now? I didn't do that. Even though last year we had the remnants of bud that came up right on the 15th of June and kicked our monsoon off, we weren't in an El Nino last year, but we are this year, so we will be keeping a close eye on the tropics. But that won't really come into play until a little later in the season. But El Nino, for those of us playing the home game, normally our trade winds blow from east to west across the tropical Pacific, and you get this warm water pool that kind of builds up. It's about a half meter higher and 8 degrees Celsius warmer than the cool water that comes up off the coast of South America. It's called upwelling. That water comes up. There's huge gyres in the entire circulation in the oceans of the world. It's kind of amazing. A sidebar, I have a marine science minor from college, which was really amazing to put with my meteorology, and I learned a lot about the ocean and its influence on the weather, and I'm happy to diatribe with anybody that wants to later, but we don't often think about how much the ocean is actually impacting our weather, and we need to be thinking about it more. Anyway, back to your El Nino, where you have that upwelling off the coast of South America stops, and so that warm pool of water is able to kind of slosh back eastward. And so it's that warmer water that can contribute to our increased tropical cyclone activity. Okay. Here's a CPC official forecast, which is favoring below normal precip in the June through August period with equal chances during the July through September period. And that's lining up with about what we're thinking. And did everybody enjoy their spring? May? Oh my gosh. It was, I spent more time outside in May this year than I have the last 6 Mays. It was beautiful, but having such a cool May is going to contribute, we think, to the delayed onset of our monsoonal pattern. I say that now, and I haven't been in the office in a couple of days, but when I left on Thursday, it did look like high pressure was going to try to set up over New Mexico by the end of next week. So this could be completely wrong. I think the GFS and the GEFs were actually producing some precip. I don't know if the Europeans caught on yet, but we might be looking at things starting up toward the end of next week. This here is yes. Someone said yes. Yes. That being said, CPC is still calling for below normal precip for the June to August period for our neck of the woods. and then equal chances of above or below in the later part of the monsoon. Nope, wrong way. All right, so here's the, the bullet points. Ongoing El Nino, widespread wet conditions, thank you, May, encourages that, that high pressure that we need to set up over the four corners to kind of develop later on, not so much, early as early as maybe last year, even though that was tropically influenced. Because we haven't really had a long stretch of hot weather yet, and it's coming next week. But we haven't had the 110, the 111, 112s, and a lot of times we need a couple days of that really, really hot weather to kind of encourage that high to migrate north from Mexico. El Nino means, again, warmer ocean temperatures available for tropical systems to spread moisture that, into our area, and we look for that actually into September and October. Just because if a tropical system comes through here in October, unfortunately we cannot include that rainfall with our monsoon total because monsoon stops for us on the 30th of September. So if we've got a tropical system and it comes in on October 1 and we get 3 inches of rain, unfortunately that doesn't go toward our monsoon total. I don't think the rules, I just follow them. Let's see. Talks about official outlook from the CPC. As always, rainfall will likely vary quite a bit across the region and even from you to your neighbor's house. I've seen it happen. Everybody around here talks about it. Downpouring at your house and your neighbor is bone dry. I've never seen it anywhere else but here, but it's true. I think the northwest side got hammered last year with the train derailment and flash flooding, and I can remember, I actually live pretty close to here, up in Marana, and I was at work the day of the train derailment, and my husband texted me, and he said, do we have flood insurance? And I said, why would we need flood insurance? And he said, well, I've never seen the wash behind our house come up as high as it is right now. And he sent me a picture, and we're not on the river or anything. We're just on a wash that's really close to the river. And it was full. It was bank to bank, and it was like a foot from the, it slopes up and then it kind of flattens out, and then you get to our wall. And it was like a foot from the top to where it was gonna hit that flat part. And he went, I'm a little nervous. It was amazing. And I think the east side, they didn't, I don't know, does anybody live out on the east side? Did you get hammered last year? Right. So, just depends, but I know there's been plenty of monsoons in the past where the east side just gets nailed day after day after day, and I'm sitting at home and I'm like, it hasn't rained here. Why hasn't it rained? So, it's gonna be, getting lucky. That's all it is. It only takes one storm to produce that flash flooding. Again, we kind of value any rain we get. Use your water wisely. Turn around, the normal weather service PSAs. Turn around, don't drown. When thunder roars, go indoors unless you're out with your 4 cameras. But really, the flash flooding aspect is a big deal around here. We have a lot of people that drive around barriers and that believe, oh, it's not that deep, I'm going to drive through it, and then they can get a flat tire because they don't know that there's debris in the road may not be there at all, maybe there's mud or sand or something that your car gets stuck in, and then all of a sudden the water is coming up really, really fast. And we can't see through the water here. It's so murky, it's so dirty, and just you cannot see what's actually in that water, and sometimes you can't even tell how deep it really is. So please, please, please tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your family, do not drive through flooded washes. Please. Wait it out, find another way home. And if you know that you're in an area where you could get stuck, either can't get home or can't get out, try to, prepare accordingly on the days where that threat is the highest. And I know I've got 8 minutes left, but that's lots of time for questions. So I'll be here. Ken, my coworker, colleague, warning coordination meteorologist and mentor is here. And so we're happy to answer any questions, weather related, weather service related. I'll actually hang out for a little bit if people want to talk before going down to lunch. So we kind of limit the influx down there, but otherwise, thank you so much.